जय श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की, जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुब्रमण्यम की, जय श्री गौरनिताय की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, शिला गुरुदेव की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Thank you all for coming for today's class. So today we will have Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 9, verse 22 and 23 will be discussed. I'll chant 22 myself, 23 we can do it together. But I'll ask help for synonyms and translation, we can do it together for both the verses. Prashtite tu vanam pitra datvagam dharma samshravaham satrimshat varsha sahasram rakshitavya hatendriyaha. Prashite, after departure. Prashite, after departure. Tu, but. Vanam, to the forest. Pitra, by your father. Datva, awarding. Gam, the whole world. Dharma Samshravaha, under the protection of piety. Satrimsat, 36. Varsha, years. Sahasram, 1000. Rakshita, you will rule. Avyahata, without decay. Indriyaha, the power of senses. Translation: after your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Purport: in the Satya Yuga, people generally live for 100,000 years. Dhruva Maharaj's ruling the world for 36,000 years was quite possible in those days. Next verse. Tvad Bharatari Braratari. You can repeat. Tvad Braratari Uttame Nashte Brihayayam Tun Tan Manaha Anveshanti Vanam Mata Davagnim Sa Pravekshati. Tvadbraritari uttame nashte Brigayayam tunan manaha Anveshanti vanam mata Davagnim cha pravekshati. Tvadbraritari uttame nashte Mrigayayam tu tanmanaha Anye shanti vanam mate Dhyayagnim sha pravekshati. Tvat, your. Bhartari, brother. Uttame, Uttama. Nashte, being killed. Migrayayam, in hunting. Tu, then. Tatmanaha, being too afflicted. Being too afflicted. Anveshanti, while searching out. Vanam, in the forest. Mata, the mother. Dava Agnim, in the forest fire. Sa, she. Pravekshyati, will enter. Translation. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj came into the forest to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a revenging spirit against his stepmother. His stepmother had insulted Dhruva, who was not an ordinary person, but a great Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnava is the greatest offense in this world. Because of having insulted Dhruva Maharaj, Suruchi would become mad upon the death of her son and would enter a forest fire, and thus her life would be ended. This was specifically mentioned by the Lord to Dhruva because he was determined to revenge against her. From this, we should take the lesson that we should never try to insult a Vaishnava. Not only should we not insult a Vaishnava, but we should not insult anyone unnecessarily. When Suruchi insulted Dhruva Maharaj, he was just a child. She of course did not know that Dhruva was great recognized Vaishnava, and so her offense was committed unknowingly. When one serves a Vaishnava unknowingly, one still gets the good result. And if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnava is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, in his 8 stanzas of the prayer to the spiritual master, has sung Yashya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is pure Vaishnava, one pleases the personality of Godhead. But if one displeases the spiritual master, one does not know where he is going. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saharagnatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Zahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurenge Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So both these verses that we read today are very significant. The Lord says to Dhruva Maharaj, the kingdom will be yours after your father leaves to the forest. Dhruva Maharaj's father was the king of the entire world. But Lord knows that when his tenure finishes, the king will give up his kingdom, pass it on to responsible person. In this example, he's passing it on to young Dhruva, and the Lord recognizes that the king is going to the forest. In those days, it is a system in Vedic culture that in order to save oneself from the repeated birth and death, the king, after his time, he will go to the forest. If one is remaining attached to his post, or if one remains attached to his family, or if one remains attached to the things, then what happens? Material bondage happens, and one cannot easily go back home, back to Godhead. So therefore, the Vedic culture demands that one, whatever position one might have, whatever attachment one might have, at a certain point of time, they have to leave those attachments, leave those things, and go back home, back to Godhead. So it was inbuilt in the Vedic system that one leaves the responsibilities and goes to the forest. So it is no use, people asking, okay, can I stay for 5 more minutes as a particular person? Can I stay for 5 more years in this position, this role that I'm attached to? What is the use? When time comes, we all have to go. So instead of forcibly going, we can voluntarily let it go. And where is Dhruva Maharaj's father going? He's going to Vanam, which is forest, right? Usually, it is called Tapo Vanam, the place of austerity. One may think, okay, going to the forest means suffering, correct? And yes, it is suffering, but what are we suffering in what sense? For what are we going to the forest and doing austerity? To get spiritual advancement. And by getting spiritual advanced, we get so much bliss that it doesn't equate to any of the material enjoyments that we have. So we can we compare spiritual enjoyment to material world? Spiritual enjoyment is permanent, it is eternal, it is blissful. Whereas material enjoyment is time limited, it is quality limited, it is quantity limited also. Let's take for example, if one wants to have fun, right? One would go to, let's say, a theme park. The whole family goes to a theme park. In order for us to go as per plan to a theme park, what do we have to do? We will try to get the kids ready, we'll plan our schedule so that we reach the theme park on time, because the theme park has certain working hours, right? Could be 10 to 4. Let's keep it 10 to 4. So if we have to go there by 10, we have to at least leave home by 8:30, 9, get the kids ready at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So there is some austerity involved. And so by the time you reach there, you park your car, then there's a long queue. There is already so many people there waiting to enter the theme park. So then you are actually looking for material fun, material enjoyment, but already look at the time that is taken. You go wait there in a long queue, then you enter the theme park. Okay, your first ride, second ride. What happens in your first ride? Let's say we are taking up a big water slide, right? So in order for us to get up to the top, we have to, there are some rubber sheets in the form of 8 or some round circle things, right? So you put it around you. So for you to put it around you and slide through the water, you have to carry it all the way. How many minutes of walking? 5 minutes of walking. How many minutes of climbing? 5 minutes of climbing. 1 floor, 2 floor, 3 floor, which these days kids are not used to. So when they reach the top, they're almost tired. And there's already a queue, so they're waiting again. So 15 minutes to go up there, to get your chance to come down the slide. And how many minutes to come down the slide? 45 seconds. And when you sit on the slide, when you want to go, how are you feeling? Fearful, right? Anxious. What is going to happen? Oh my God, do I have to do this? The kids are like, I know, mommy, I don't want to do. But still you came up. You tried so hard. You spent 15 minutes. Now you have to go. Come on. Then we push kids to have that fun, and then we make them go. So all that austerity of climbing, and then the fear, and then anxiety, and then when they go down, they're like, yes, I reached down and I'm now happy. So that split second is what we call it as a material enjoyment. So how is it the material enjoyment is time limited? Because for you to enjoy that 45 seconds or 30 seconds, you have to struggle for 15 minutes, and you have to go through that fear, that anxiety, and the quality of your enjoyment. Where is it coming? The quality is just coming at the end. That only that much quality. But all the way, and again if you have to do one more ride, then you have to do the same austerity again, and then you come down another only few seconds of enjoyment. So where is the quality? Where is the quantity of enjoyment? But if you're with your spiritual master, if you're with serving your spiritual master, or I don't know how many of you have experienced, but there is that bliss when you're with your spiritual master, with Lord Krishna, doing service, especially during Janmashtami. Definitely, I know most of us would have experienced. Like at night 12, when the curtain opens and we see Radha Gopinath giving their darshan, how happy we feel, how much bliss we feel. Is it momentary? It's at least there for 1 hour, 2 hours after it's open. When we enjoy with the devotees, when we dance with the devotees, it's continuous, right? Even though we are not in the spiritual world yet, but at least we get a glimpse of the spiritual world. And that's what is having that spiritual association, and that spiritual darshan helps us get to. So therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who wants to stay here and enjoy material happiness is a fool. Fool, right? No intelligent person would do that. Even great kings would leave everything behind. Even Dhruva Maharaj's father left, can Dhruva Maharaj's father, even though being a great king, can he say to Yamaraj, sorry, I'm the king of this entire world, please wait, I want to live for some more time? Can he say that to Yamaraj? No, right? No one cares. So then what does he do? So he leaves. Because he is intelligent, he leaves to the forest. He goes and he actually gives that position to his son, who is actually very qualified, and that is young Dhruva. And if it was an attached old man, let's say, unlike Dhruva's father, what would that old man do? He'll say, oh no, I have owned this company, I have brought it up to this state, how can I just give it off to another small boy? He is not that experienced, whereas I'm very experienced. I know what I'm doing, but this boy might blow it up in few months. So I don't want to give up my role here as a CEO or as a king and leave out or give up and go. So that trust these days are not there. And we always think, okay, if one is 40 years old, 50 years old, or 60 years old, only then they get that responsibility to take care of a company or anything. So those days, or particularly Dhruva Maharaj's father, trusted his son Dhruva to take care of the kingdom, and he left. But again, these days we are not having that sort of people who want to give the responsibility to their son and daughters and to responsible individuals who are qualified and move on. They try to stick to whatever they have and role, position, things, and they are just stuck. But we have good examples of Alexander the Great, who became king at the age of 20, right? And what did he do? As soon as he became king, he started expanding his kingdom. He conquered a lot of places. And at the age of 33, he was no more. And we could also see Srila Prabhupada gave sannyasi initiation to young devotees who were at the age of 21. Because Prabhupada knew that they would be responsible, they are qualified. We can make them devotees. And still we can see those spiritual masters, how much they are actually giving to the world, how much they have actually done for Krishna consciousness to spread and things like that. Another example could be quoted of Shankaracharya, who lived for 38 years. Another example is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who lived for 48 years. So when we say that we have to wait for somebody to become mature and then we have to give responsibilities, then we have to rethink about it. Because the earlier we give responsibilities to the children, to the youth, to anybody who's in contact with a devotee or anybody who's in trainee under a teacher, then the value of the person becomes more, then the responsibility of the individual becomes more. Let's say now I start training my kid to do certain tasks, then it will be easy for them as they progress. Let's say you have your Bhakti Viksha group, and if you are leading, the more sooner you get them to learn what they need to preach Krishna consciousness, then they become responsible to carry the movement forward. Otherwise, we just stuck like saying, I'm the only leader. If I'm there, then the yatra exists. If I'm not there, then the yatra doesn't exist. So at least in our yatra, it is not like that. We have lot of preachers and we have lot of youth who are actually doing lot of activities, who are taking important responsibilities and who are committing to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath doing various services. So we are very fortunate to be in this position. Yeah. So therefore, we should try. We were talking about the old men, right? So being attached to the position, the role and everything. So the more one tries to enjoy sense gratification, it is like foolishness basically. And what is more pathetic is that if an old man tries to be like an young man and enjoy, and it's a sign of not knowing the real purpose of life. The real purpose of life is to get out of this material existence and be fully engaged in devotional service to Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. So what should we keep in the forefront? And if that's what we want, what should we note? One should note about this enormous obstacle. And what is that enormous obstacle that comes in the path of Vaishnavas? In between our goal and a devotee, it is Vaishnava Aparadha, that is committing offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, is the greatest obstacle that comes between us and the goal. So how do we get over this obstacle? Or what are we comparing this with? So basically, when we describe about this plant of devotional service, we can think of how first the seed got ingrained in one's heart, right? Once the seed is ingrained, the seed of bhakti is ingrained in one's heart, then we try to water it by how? By hearing and chanting. And we also follow the process of so once we water it, we nourish it. So what happens to the plant? The plant goes up and up through the material world, Brahmajyoti, and reaches the lotus feet of Krishna. And there it flowers and gives fruits. So that plant can be easily destroyed how? By the mad elephant. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you want to ruin that plant, let the mad elephant come inside your garden and it will do its job. Your garden will be completely destroyed, ravaged, finished, right? So that's what our devotional service would look like if we commit offenses against Vaishnavas. So we might be doing so many services, beautiful services, like we might be doing cooking, offering to the deities, we might do nice decoration, we might do a lot of book distribution, but at the same time, if you are offending Vaishnavas, then we are not in balance. So we have to make sure, we have to be cautious that we be careful in committing Vaishnava Aparadha. And here the example which is provided to us today's class is Dhruva Maharaj. When he was a small boy, he is offended by his stepmother Suruchi. So he was not even a devotee at that time. Still, the Lord takes it seriously. And what does he do? He says, stepmother's son Uttama will die when he comes over hunting, and the mother Suruchi will be burnt in the forest fire. So that serious Lord takes committing offenses against Vaishnavas. So if a non-devotee is taken so seriously, how much we should take devotees' offenses seriously? Like how much we should be careful in not offending devotees. We should be very, very serious, right? Because we are people who are day in and day out chanting Krishna's name. And if we are offending a Vaishnava, then it means like we are more madder than the maddest elephant. Correct? So we have to be very watchful of what we are doing, how we can commit. We will see in commit offenses. We'll see in a few minutes. So when we talk about spiritual life, it is said, what are the austerities that we do in spiritual life? Maybe we do Ekadashi fasting, maybe we do Chaturmasya fast, maybe we do some kind of book distribution, maybe we do maybe Purushottam fasting. These are some of the austerities, right? But is it very hard? Maybe not, because we are used to it by now. But what is really hard is how we engage with our peers, how we engage with Vaishnavas. That's very hard, because day in and day out we have to talk to these devotees, we have to work with these devotees. So somehow or the other we find it easy to blame somebody, criticize somebody, and we have negative attitude towards people. So all this has to be watched. And we were talking about Mahaprabhu, who lived up to 48 years, correct? So what did he teach us while he was there? For his first 24 years in his life, he was displaying pastimes of a young boy, a youthful person. And after that, next 6 years, he used to travel. He traveled to South India, then to Varanasi, then to Vrindavan, to a lot of places. While traveling, what did he do? He preached to a lot of people, he spread the holy names. People became Krishnized by just watching him, touching him, seeing him, hearing him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if he had thought that I had to spread Krishna consciousness, after the 6 years also he could have continued to many different places, and many people would have become devotees. But instead, what did Mahaprabhu do? He actually went to Jagannath Puri. He stayed there for the next 18 years. So the thing to be noted is that, why did he stay for so long in one place instead of making devotees very quickly, very easily? He wanted to train us, to give the Vaishnava etiquette, and to also educate us in educating us in having good relationship with Vaishnavas. So in that ways, we can see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, a lot of examples where Mahaprabhu deals with different people in various ways is stated. And it's also touching to the heart, it's all very pleasing. So from that we can learn how we should deal with Vaishnavas and how we should culture a good relationship with Vaishnavas. So he teaches us to have a proper disposition in our mind, because we are people who actually chant Krishna's name day in and day out. It's just like an ice cream, right? If it's in the fridge, it'll stay intact, it'll have its position, proper shape and everything. But once it's taken out of the fridge, it melts off. So similarly, if a Vaishnava is in proper disposition in his mind, if he has that warmth, that particular temperature, Just like how we have that ice cream set in a particular temperature. If we are set in a particular temperature, set in particular disposition of mind, then we will not hurt others, we will not blame others. And if that is there, then it is easy to have a good relationship with people. And we all know that there are various type of apradhs. One is nama apradh, offenses against holy name; vigraha apradh, offenses against deities; guru apradh, offenses against the guru; seva apradh, offenses while we do services; and then dam apradh, offenses which is done in holy places. But out of all this, the main apradh we all need to worry about is offenses against the Vaishnavas, because Gopinath takes it very seriously. He doesn't like one of his devotee to be let down. He doesn't like any of them criticizing his devotees. So it's like, according to him, he often doesn't appreciate, he gets displeased by one offending others. So we have to be very watchful of that. So the Shastras or the Acharyas define that word aparadh very nicely. Aparadha. So where there is no radha, then it becomes aparadha. So in our dealings, when we are not very pleasing, when we are not very sweet, then we remove radha out of the scene, it seems. So then it becomes aparadha. Similarly in English, if we actually jump out of the fence of bhakti, then we jump out of the protection of the Lord. If we jump out of the fence of bhakti, then it becomes an offense. So we can relate to it in many different ways. And if we want to be under the protection of the Lord, if we want to be taken care by our lordships, then we have to make sure that our attitude towards people are proper and we don't commit offenses. And so it's like, I've told this before, but I'll just repeat it again. We might be chanting nicely, but we might be doing a lot of nice services. But if you're committing offense, it's like, in a car, we put the accelerator also and the brake also at the same time. The car doesn't move forward or backward. It just is stagnant. It just stays as it is. So in Skanda Purana, it says there are 6 types of Vaishnava aparadh. So one is, when we see a devotee, we should share a smile, it seems. If we don't, then it's a Vaishnava aparadh. Normally when somebody takes photograph, we smile. That's like, natural. But when we see devotees, friends are okay, but any other person, we don't want to smile. Because they are strangers, or we don't like them, so we don't smile. But it's good to always have a smiling face, smile at people, welcome them, because we have Krishna in our heart. We can also invite by sharing a good smile. We don't want to offend people, right? Second thing is, blaming a Vaishnava is also considered an offense. If we beat up a Vaishnava, then also it becomes a aparadh. So it need not be that one has to physically go and hit somebody. In Mahabharata it says that when people who are worthy of worship, if they don't need a sword or a stick to actually hit them and they feel hurt. If you don't respect them, they feel very badly hurt. It is equal to slaying them or beating them up, it seems. So when a person who is actually worthy of worship, if we disrespect them, that's worthy of beating them up. So we have to be very careful to give respect to everybody whom we see, day in and day out. So if we are not happy to see a devotee, then also it's an offense. If we show anger to devotees, then also it's an offense. If we don't offer our pranams to devotees, then also it's an offense. If we don't have a positive attitude or behavior towards devotees, then also it's an offense. Seems very scary, right? Oh my God, so much offense. I'm doing day in and day out. But there is hope. But actually, what we can find out from Skanda Purana is even more, demotivating. First I'll say the demotivating one and then we'll go for the motivating one. What Skanda Purana says about people who commit Vaishnava aparadh is, for several years, after we commit that offense, the Lord won't accept our services. So whatever services we offer, maybe for the next 12 years, he wouldn't accept. How would it be? Then our spiritual balance will become nil, right? So basically, so the hopeful part or the positive part is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Bhagavat chapter 19 verse 213, he explains, like Vrindavan Thakur writes, Mahaprabhu lifts both his arm up in the air and promises that if anyone doesn't blame a devotee or a Vaishnava, and once if he utters the name of Krishna, then I promise that I will take him. So it's giving, this sort of statements is giving some hope. So this is the point to be noted. And it is just that if one takes care of these offenses against Vaishnavas and then chant even one name purely, Mahaprabhu will take us and we can make our path to going back to Godhead easier. Otherwise, we become stagnant. So that's it for today. If anybody has any questions, comments, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Can you be a bit louder? No guide. Uh-huh. That's nice. But then there was years that, years that he was in penance, he was in the forest. So you're saying after Dhruva Maharaj came back, was there any guidance? Sorry, I don't know about that. We don't have any explanation about that. Maybe we'll come to know in the future classes. But that's nice to have a compassionate nature though. I appreciate, you thinking like if Suruchi had some guidance, she would have got benefited without being affected by the mistake, right? But she has offended knowingly or unknowingly. So for that she has to get the reaction correct. So that's why that being that extra cautious and being an extra mile needs to be taken care. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. It's up to individuals, right? So if you want to maintain a friendly relationship, you can say Hare Krishna. After all, Prabhupada has said, we are all souls. If one looks at you as a Mataji, or if one looks at you as a Prabhuji, then that is how much their consciousness is developed. So as and when they progress in their bhakti, and when one starts to see away from the bodily consciousness, then one can actually see one person as a soul and not as a woman. So that is what we have to understand. I've also, I had the same question, so this is the answer I found over the period of years. Yeah. Hare Krishna.